Check your sources. 100 lessons from 100 books. In this episode, I'm going to discuss an idea or a lesson, so to speak, that I was able to extract from a book called Bad Science by Ben Goldberg. Now, this book is sort of an expose on big pharma, big studies, clinical trials, and how the science can be manipulated and the data can be manipulated to support somebody's own agenda. And there's lots and lots of content to this book. But to boil it down, the one lesson that I really got from it, and it's something that's been resonating with me since I read the book, was check your sources. Now, I have taken this idea not only from the science behind the diets or the science behind drugs or whatever details the book went into. I've taken that and I've actually flipped that idea onto all kinds of news, the fake news media, because I really do think that not all news is fake, but I really do think there's a lot of headlines out there and there's a lot of BS out there. And sometimes there'll be headlines out there that will say certain things that I'm doing in my life are wrong. And it's very easy for friends or family or people who you know to send you a link to a new report that says that this certain food they know that you eat regularly is bad for you. And it's always important to then layer back and see where that information is coming from. An example that pops into my head is I use MCT oil quite regularly, and there's a lot of news out there that MCT oil is bad for you. But when you actually check the majority of the studies that I've read, that when people have said, oh, you shouldn't be using MCT oil, those studies are actually based on coconut butter or coconut oil, which isn't strictly MCT oil. It's anywhere between 35% MCT to 65% MCT, and it's more of a butter and high in saturated fats. Now, not to get too deep into that, you could do a whole video on this, but the idea is that certain outlets and certain organizations use these studies that aren't necessarily 100% about a certain product or a certain idea to then attack a certain product and a certain idea without then delivering the full information to you. So people are walking around misinformed and basically undereducated on a subject, and then they can form their opinions. And people do this for the good and the bad. You can go back to many different things in our lives, in my lifetime, that we've been told that are good for you that aren't bad for you. Like when cigarettes first came out and they were advertised as good for you. We all know that was a big lie. So there's many examples out there in our world over the last 50 to 60 years where different things have been sold to us. So that's why I'm going to repeat back to the idea that I really got out of the book Bad Science by Ben Goldberg is check your sources. Doesn't matter whether it's a news story, doesn't matter whether it's a friend telling you something, doesn't matter what it is. Just make sure that anytime new information comes to you that might challenge your current position or might actually reinforce your current position is to check the sources of that. Because science and information has changed my mind on certain things, but it's also helped me double down on certain things when I've checked the sources and realized where the sources are coming from and whether that source is to be relied upon or whether that source is a bit sketchy. Anyway, that's where we're going to wrap up today's video. I think it's a pretty simple lesson here. There's a lot more lessons in the book by Ben Goldberg, but I'm not really a scientist, so a lot of it was more interesting for me to read. But that is the lesson that I really pulled out of this book, was check your sources. Make sure the information is coming from a good place. Anyway, if you like this video, hit that button for me. Also, if you want to hear other ideas that have inspired me from the books that I've read, you can hit that subscribe button and check out a lot more content across my channel. My mission here is to deliver bite-sized videos each week that can hopefully help those that start late get started on their personal development journey. I really appreciate you watching all the way through this part of the video, and hopefully we'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Make it a good one.